Okay, folks, welcome to another week. Blake and I are here 2 days a week. We do a Tuesday show and we do a Friday show. So this is the first of two big developments today. What do we call today? Ukraine peace deal and treason. So we got Mark, whatever his name is, General Mark, idiot
Kelly,
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 idiot moron
Senator.
senator. Anyway, so him and his cadre, they thought they would be clever and do a kind of a PA where they're encouraging military personnel to disobey Trump, and the punchline is illegal rules, and of course no orders have been given out by the administration that are illegal. Simply put, it's an effort to undermine the presidency, delegitimize the presidency. Again, the old thing, and then Millie, or I keep calling Millie Kelly, posts this picture of his medals. Hesketh gave him shit, said your medals are on wrong, you moron. And so the talk is that they're going to reinstate him. He's the only one of the six. They're calling them the seditious six. He's the only one of the six traitors that can still be called up for active duty. He's under that kind of classification. So according to Hesketh, he says we can actually bring him Secretary of War. Love the name. So going to bring him in, reinstate him, and then bust him and rank court-martial that fucker. And I think it's nothing could be sweeter. What are you thankful this Thanksgiving? Because it's America.
Happy Thanksgiving. You're going to jail.
Hey, there's a lot going on. The U.S. Is having their great Thanksgiving, so we got birthday going. There is a lot going on. There's a documentary. I want to tell people a little public note. There's a documentary being done about my other show, but I'm political. I'm a political person. I love Trump, as you know. And so they're doing a documentary on me. It is complete. And so there's going to be a screening tomorrow in the morning at 9:00. I don't have the link for it here. Maybe afterthought. Maybe Sue will get it for you and drop it in as part of the record on this program. But he wanted to film because he knows I'm a Trumpy Bear Canadian. Blake, make no mistake, Blake and I are in Canada. He's in Victoria. I'm in Nanaimo. But we've always been since day one upfront about it. Political news. It's not like we're trying to pretend we're American or anything. We wish we were. Given the state of China right now, it's horrible. And it was Milo. Remember Milo, the gay conservative guy, gotten a little bit of, he's kind of crazy. Yep. And he's a shock jock for political cause. Well, he came out and he said everybody's ashamed to be from Canada right now. Like they're hanging their heads in shame. I got to admit, there's some truth for that. Now, our liberal types aren't. They're hoghead going full on. So proud to be liberal retards with elbows up. But for Blake and I, it's kind of embarrassing to be from this shit show joint. And it's just a dumpster fire. We recognize it. I'm old and Blake's getting older. So Blake has a chance to get the hell out of here. We were talking about it. Blake was saying you should get your native status and go, because I got American cousins. Like they're second cousins, third cousins, but they're on the U.S. side of the border, right? In part of Turtle Island is one of my Coeur d'Alene tribe. My great-great-grandfather ended up there. And, so I've got a whole bunch of Indian kind of relations down the States. So just bypass America and Canada and just go all in on the Indian thing.
Yeah, well, there is special provisions for anybody of Indigenous descent in believe Canada, the U.S. Can cross the borders unhindered. So
I would love this, right? I need this. Set up my teepee, in Washington State or Montana. Montana's closer. Idaho, is where the kind of my people are. But anyway, the big news today. This is huge. Ukraine peace deal. Blake, all I can tell you is Trump's team has broken it. The major details have all been agreed to by the Ukrainians. The deal favors the Russians because the Russians, to their credit, won the war. I saw a great post on X today with Kamala Harris going, "We're going to make Ukraine a part of NATO." And then weeks later, mere weeks after she did her big speech, Russia went and invaded them. You don't frickin' play that stupid game. Biden administration created wars. Trump's on record as ending them. And with God's help, Lord willing, we're going to see an end to this Ukraine conflict where the Ukrainians and Russians are both bleeding out, but the Russians can handle the bigger bleed, in truth be known. And it's a grinding, horrific war. But every day I go and I look and I watch military, what do they call that thing? The military channel. Mm-hmm. And I forget the name of it. But the guy's so good. And he goes, here's what the Ukrainian mappers are doing. And here's what the Russians are doing, the Russian mappers. And all I see is Ukrainian territory surrounded, Ukrainian territory falls. Ukrainian territory surrounded, Ukrainian territory falls. So the writing's on the wall. I think even the Ukrainians recognize they can't win this thing. Plus, we've got corruption scandals bursting out like pimples on a teenager, an oily teenager in the Ukraine right now. So that's going to have some blowback on politicians over here. Canada's going to be, again, you know, it seems like our politicians could walk down any street in Canada right now, put a bullet in somebody, literally, to pop and they go, oh, well, and nothing would happen. You'd have a few mumbled meekly kind of, well, that was kind of overreach, you know, but you know, that would be it. Then it would disappear. The story would be the corruption levels in this place are off the scale. So
to even the point, Putin called us a failed state recently.
Well, I believe that's a parody channel. The guy that did that, but it is funny. I mean, this guy's pretty funny, and I love it because he heads it up with the CBC. So, pure parody, but it's funny as hell. Okay, so let's do the Ukraine war thing. Trump's team's doing it. So the major things are agreed upon. The minor details have to be worked out. Do you think this is it? Do you think we got the winning shot at peace here with this?
Well, the winning shot of peace should have happened a long time ago. But the point is that the Europeans, the carnies, the WEF, who supported the ongoing war efforts, the Democratic Party, everybody who kept pushing for continued war when Trump was trying to end it, there was an opportunity to do it, and which probably would have helped Ukraine save a lot of face and a lot of territory and potentially an earlier peace deal with less lives lost. But remember these,
isn't it?
And now as you just correctly stated, the war is over. The Russians were crushing Ukraine at this point.
Yes,
and Russia has a lot more capital and a lot more money. People think Russia's broke through all this. They are not broke. If you look at Russia's GDP, if you look at Russia's debt to individuals ratios, they're nowhere near where we are. We're one of the worst in Canada. So how they thought that Russia could potentially lose this war, I think they were fighting to find a way to get I think Ukraine was fighting to the point where they thought they could get to a stalemate, and that stalemate didn't work. And a lot of the Russians end up, the Russians use a lot of proxy mercenary type of countries as well. They'll hire other forces to fight their wars for them, very similar to other international countries that do that as well. And Ukraine was desperate. They were grabbing everybody and they dog off the street and throwing them in uniform, and which was amazing. I just recently saw a video. It was shot in the Ukraine. It was kind of a travel blogger who thought he kind of goes into, I can't remember his name. Anyways, he goes into kind of dangerous places for tourism. And he was in one of the towns in far western Ukraine, which was quite a ways from the battlegrounds. And there he was. There was people like in the bars drinking. There was an air raid siren. Apparently, drone attack was coming. They all went under. And then he went under to take protection, but all the people in the streets just kept partying and going to the bars. And I'm like, I thought all the young people were rounded up fighting wars here. How are they able to not go to war? And there they were partying in the streets. And it just makes me think it's just this giant cash cow that the Ukraine became. And now there's stories coming out. We were talking off stage a little bit about this, that there's literally tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars that were earmarked to support Ukraine's efforts that quickly just went through a back channels into Estonian banks and into the pockets of European officials and into the pockets of what they're saying is some U.S. representatives as well. So we'll see once this all ends, hopefully that, again, we see this endless discussion of wanting people to go to jail, because so far we haven't seen a single soul go to jail since Trump's been elected. It's time. It's time to open the doors wide open. It's time to get these globalists who've been running these foreign wars, who've been murdering people in these wars for their own personal benefit, and especially these people who are taking money that was supposedly donated to the cause in the Ukraine and then funneling it into their own pockets. Those people should have a public trial and should be convicted in front of everybody for basically war profiteering at a high scale and theft. And I mean, it's a theft. It's an embezzlement scheme run by politicians in both Europe and in the United States to back channel money to themselves. Just like we know Zelensky as well has back channeled his own money in places like Dubai and stuff like that. So, this was inevitable. Russia's just too powerful. I think they thought they could beat them up to a stalemate. Then Russia would say, okay, yeah, we'll do a deal. And I guess the concession is we'll have to allow Ukraine to have NATO membership.
Let me do a shout out to Military Summary Channel. I do watch it somewhat religiously. Great commentary. This fellow, he may even be in Canada or somewhere like that, but he's from Eastern European background. He's got the Slavic accent, all that sort of thing. But here's a screenshot of it. Let me take a look and make sure that it's large enough for you kids. Yeah, I'll give it full screen just because. Why not? Let's make it bigger. All right, here it is. So the West is changing 28 plan. Battle for Hule Pole begins, whatever pronunciation. But you can see it. Zaitshisha has fallen. There's the Russians all coming in. The time for reflection is running out is another one. Here is the response to the peace plan. Parties ignore Trump's plan. Situation near Severus. Huliapole is critical, showing there. Complete surroundment occurring. Pazino has fallen. Zavanivka has fallen. It's just like this. But the guy grabs the Ukrainian maps. There's Kupriansk has fallen. And he looks at the Ukrainian intel as well as the Russian. So it's not just a propaganda channel. Like you can go and he'll show you how how the two sides map it out and what's actually occurring. And he'll use wherever possible somebody waving a flag. So it's Ukrainians having some territory gained back. They'll have some soldiers there holding Ukrainian flag in this. I find it very balanced. And the reality is the map doesn't lie. The map doesn't lie at the end of the day. It can lie in the short term, but at the end, it's like fully under so-and-so's control. And there's no hiding that fact when you see the Russian flags all over and Russian troops are everywhere. And soldiers are walking about with no drones there. And one of the catch-22s for the Ukrainians and all this is for propaganda. You want to show them killing a lot of Russians. So they do these great drone shots. The trouble with the drone kills is that you see a drone going in, but then it turns out that where they're killing these Russians is deep in Ukrainian territory. So what if you've got control and everything's hunky-dory, what the hell are these dead Russians doing in your territory? You're not killing all of them. They're there. So look out, right? And so we're seeing this attrition situation happen. Military Summary Channel. So a big shout out to them. Okay, let's see what I've got lined up here. Okay, and I don't even know what I'm showing here. Okay, major loss for BC. Let's go to British Columbia. This is kind of a fun one, Blake. Okay, this is this is pretty funny. Major loss for British Columbia, Canada. Nutrien is building its $1 billion potash export terminal in Washington State, cutting British Columbia out entirely. When you attack other provinces, say no to everything, the economy says no to you. EB is learning the hard way. BC residents are paying the price. Canadian potash company Nutrien to build terminal in the U.S., not BC. And apparently, Blake, these guys cited 30 reasons why Washington State is a better port and it's $1 billion port facility that they're building just to traffic whatever the hell this potash product that they're creating out of Saskatchewan. Blake, what do you think? EB and his policies.
Well, he's in my opinion, and many other opinions that I've read, following on those that have done the research, this guy is a bought and paid for asset. This guy has foreign entanglements written all over him. Guys like Sam Cooper have been writing about it for a long time, that he has been captured by foreign interests, specifically China.
Yeah.
And every action he has done, everything from bringing in DRIPA, which really there was no purpose to it. It was the United Nations version that what they called UNDRIP, which they converted into DRIPA, which basically mirrored the UN law. The only place in the world that adopted that as a local government policy that converted it into law. And he has systematically gone to war against property owners, even prior to that. But they began this process of declaring war because that's what Marxists do. They hate private property ownership. But they've basically gone after people who own private property, who have earned the right to their private property for whatever reason. I work in the field that I saw it firsthand how he went after the low-hanging fruit, people who owned a second home, a vacation home, which, mind you, have been promoted for decades and decades to do in British Columbia by successive prior governments, including the 1990s NDP. He has basically brought in his campus radical ideology, which this is a premier whose only claim to fame was working for the Civil Liberties Association as an activist attorney, or an activist lawyer, we call them. We don't call them attorneys in Canada, but yeah, he supported the Antifa Black Bloc people to get them out of jail while they rioted and caused problems building up through the Olympic Games of 2010. This guy is an asset, I believe, to cause disruption. I think he is an asset tied to helping convert those resources that are here. He keeps talking about First Nations ownership. He's bypassing the British Columbians that actually live here completely by using DRIPA to get around it. So this is how the bigger story that's happening here. And of course, the WF types, which are the asset managers and the big central banks out of Europe, who also fund China's activities as well, are in alignment with him, because if you can strip people of all their land rights and all of the control and the democratic levers that controls it from the very broader public perception, and all you have to do is negotiate a deal with the local king, being a First Nations chief, then basically you can bypass all that stuff and you can manage it, own it, run it while greasing palms. Well, meanwhile, Indigenous people at the ground level, grassroots, and non-Indigenous people at the grassroots get nothing. It's just a big scam. So EB's starting to realize, I think he's shown what's happened is the West is uniting against this WF side. He is one of their assets. And I think Alberta and Saskatchewan are already starting making deals with the U.S. That's what's happening. We're going to bypass you. You're gone. That's exactly how Trump's talking about Canada. We're just bypass you, but they're realizing if we don't make these efforts, we need to break British Columbia. British Columbia needs to be broken. It needs to be shattered before we got to get these Marxists, progressives that are entrenched in here, blown out of their seats and gone for good. I mean that politically.
Well, we talked about the election problem. Is that they seem impossible. And by the way, Blake, recently, and I'm talking like a couple of months ago, I had the occasion to go down to Victoria. It was right in the middle of the big British Columbia Government Employee Union strike, the BCGEU. They were all on strike. There were so many of them in Victoria, the capital city. It was unbelievable. It was like going into a cult or something. You had all the picketing people. There were thousands, literally thousands of them. And of course, those are just the ones we're seeing outside the door, because normally they're all hidden away in their buildings. But because they were on strike, they all had to kind of come out in the open for a civilian such as myself to look at all these government employees. And believe you me, in Victoria, you want a golden ticket, you want the easy street for the rest of your life, get involved with government. You don't have to do much. They don't expect results. And you have a very healthy wage. These are the entitled classes in British Columbia. They are absolutely entitled. They're the elbows up people. They're the ones that keep the corrupt power entrenched. They're a real problem. How the hell are we going to get rid of?
Well, that's elbows up, right? That is elbows up. It is the public sector class of Canada flexing their muscle through their political levers, which is now the Liberal Party of Canada or the BC NDP in the provincial wings. These people are shameless, and yet they walk around pretending that they actually care when they actually don't. They're pocketing as much as they can. They glean off the productive sector. They destroy nonprofits, because nonprofits who traditionally help a lot of different segments of our society are being ruined because the BCGU and other BC NDP union forces. Then let's call it for what it is. Those guys are the BC NDP. They go and unionize those private sector nonprofits and destroy them and convert them into basically government at arm's length entities. And then, of course, everything's about their pensions. And this is where we're seeing in Canada overall that the asset managers, the Mark Carney, the general, the WEF, who came in here to draw his battle lines for them to create a proxy state that will stand up to the United States, which I believe he's playing two sides of the fence there. We'll see how that rolls out. But the point is that he's now advertising. This is what's scary. He's advertising $2 trillion of Canadian pension fund wealth to spread around the world for trade now.
It's going to, I guess Modry was talking about there's a big investment, a Canadian pension fund into India. And make no mistake, Blake, Canada is turning into India number 2 here. We're kind of like little India minor. I've got okay, here it is. So my guy is Ryan Gerritsen. Okay,
Ryan.
Because this is kind of crazy. This is kind of the absolute state of Canada right now. Okay, here's what's happening. This is Canada. These individuals are voting on a Khalistan referendum, which is an unofficial, non-binding referendum regarding the potential creation of a separate Sikh religious state within the territory of India. Read that one again. So they just had a big thing here in Canada. Here's the clip. And so all these folks are out. Apparently this stretched around blocks. And they're all voting for independence like the Sikh religion. And, and it just goes on and on. So they're having a referendum. India doesn't like these people, by the way. We've got them, and they're responsible for blowing things up. There was this Sikh air. Look at this; it's just crazy. So this is our Canada in 2020, like. And onto the street here. This
भैया खोलियो
Okay, so that thing stretched on for blocks. Okay, they out the door. so you got this sectarian stuff over here. Oh, another guy posted, who I follow, he posted and he goes, how the hell do 200,000 East Indians end up in Brampton, Ontario? Like, I mean, that is that kind of population. So the country's shifting dramatically. We know that 36% of our population have only been here 10 years or earlier. These people are coming with sectarian issues, dealing with the old country back in India. It's certainly not reflective old stock Canadians, a group who you and I are a member of, a group who was vilified by Justin Trudeau, our former prime minister. Yeah. What do you take about, what's your take on this, Khalistan, the Sikh, the population, the Indian presence in Canada? And there's nothing wrong with the people, they're great, blah, 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 get all that. But what we're trying to point out here is that there's a demographic shift changing dramatically in Canada.
Yeah. Well, I think in specific neighborhoods and cities for sure, like Surrey, we've seen significant changes there, and the equivalent to Surrey, British Columbia, is Brampton, Ontario, where literally I think the numbers are close to 400,000 people have moved in there. Primarily what is from India, and India, you're right, has three different groups that are at odds with each other, right? You've got the Hindu, you've got Sikhs, and of course Muslims. Yeah. And if anybody's ever seen the great movie, it was a wonderful movie about Mahatma Gandhi, and the movie Gandhi was terrific. Or read the history about Gandhi. Trying to keep those forces from destroying each other was a feat and a half, let alone they were dealing with the time with the British Empire. But yeah, it is not a melting pot in India. It is a very difficult, depending on where you live. If you're in Hindu territories and you're Hindu, you'll be fine. If you're in the Sikh area, you'll be fine. I have found through my history, and you've lived here on the West Coast as well for a big chunk of your life.
Oh yeah, most.
And we've have lots of Sikhs here, and historically we have, right? They date back for 150 years or 100. I think when, at least that, highly connected to the logging industry in British Columbia. I've had lots of friends who were from Sikh backgrounds, and they became part of the melting pot, and they would be your buddies, and everybody knew each other. It didn't matter what your faith was, but when you overwhelm a country to the point where its own identity is at risk, that's what the Carney Liberals and the Justin Trudeau Liberals for 10 years purposely, and I said it's intentionally. They thought they could, immigrate their way out of the demographic bomb. And that's, again, the asset managers and their, trillionaire asset managers managing our pension funds are desperate to not have to pay out as many of those without money to come in. If there's no money coming in by a productive class, those pensions are going bankrupt. So the elbows up crowd couldn't care less about their country. They were so happy to bring in a Carney and throw out any vestiges of what Canada used to be, because anybody who's a true Canadian patriot is an enemy of the state now. They're vilified. They're called that they're not colonists, and called either a settler, or they use it terms. You're a colonizer. They use it in negative terminology. They don't say, "Hey, we're all part of Canada now. We all built this nation together. Everybody, let's be friends and love each other and make everybody prosperous and wealthy." Instead of going that direction, they've decided to divide and conquer everybody into segmented
we're getting overwhelmed, right?
And I was just going to say, but India is an area where you have where they're bringing a lot of unskilled labor, and traditionally your immigration there would be a smaller percentage of that allowed to come into your country on humanitarian basis, like you come from a war-torn area, you're a true refugee. But you now are seeing basically economic refugees, basically the slumlords who lived in India are being dumped into Canada, and as cheap labor. They're calling them students or doing whatever they can to get them through the door by the million. Yeah. And these people are not going to be able to contribute to society in a meaningful way when it comes to higher skilled. We're not getting doctors.
We're not getting their best.
We're not getting the business class people. We're getting people that are working at 7-Eleven, which could be for a local job, really, for anything, or working at A&W, or working at the very, very beginner rung of your job labor pool, which traditionally was allied for your, or created for really a younger class of Canadians, your teenagers, young adults kind of getting their first jobs. That's where they would start. Well, that's all being erased, and it's being handed over to unskilled labor from third world, which are cheap. But here's the biggest problem. They're also funding it at a tune of somewhere in the carriage. Some families are getting $8,000 a month to bring their whole family over and live off the government. And yet pensioners who have paid for 40 years into the Canadian system can barely get $1,000 a month out of CPP. So it's just this absolute ass backward system. And this is why I think Trudeau came out and said, we're a post-nation state now. We have no identity. They're basically, and then they shame you for having an identity, attacking you personally to do that, so that they could overwhelm the system, bring in millions of workers that they're calling them, and they're calling them refugees. When I see Indian students, quote unquote, standing there and protesting, saying, we're refugees. You were not refugees. You're not from a war-torn state. I'm sorry. It's not like there's a massive famine and you're dying in the millions here.
Yeah, Bangladesh.
We did bring in a lot of Ukrainians. I think there was a few here. We've got Syrians here. As these wars end, if you cut off the funding, they'll go home. Almost every time they go home. Once wars end, all that stuff, they do go home. We've seen that time and time again, that after a while, these immigrants will leave to go home but if you keep feeding them the free money, they will not leave. And that's the thing. If you cut off all the refugee funding and the newcomer money that the Liberals created, they will not be able to stand. And I think it's a desperate plea or a desperate action by the class of the bureaucratic elite who want to maintain control over the economic levers of pensions. And it all comes down to the pensions. And it's always that. Carney's out there selling pensions. And he's selling Canada as a cheap place to produce stuff. Now he's going to turn us into a third world or maybe a second world country. We're not far from second world now. At least sections of our economy are second world, and even third world districts like Vancouver East Side. And they want to accuse us of genocide and all this kind of crap. And I'm seeing there is a genocide. There is a genocide happening right now, and it's being perpetrated by the government through the opioid crisis. We've had 16,000 people die in British Columbia because of these guys, the same guys, and they don't care. That's not a genocide when it's systematically being allowed to be done through a narco state to murder 16,000 plus people in British Columbia alone and counting. And that's the Carney, the Liberal NDP elite, how they care so much about that. That's not, but they care about a phantom group of 215 children that are so-called buried in a residential school as the catalyst to use to tear down the narrative that Canada is a country that should be ashamed for existing. So,
yeah, it's really interesting right now. The U.S. State Department has got Canada firmly in focus right now because we're being destabilized by this and with mass immigration. And of course, the Trump administration is not happy about this mass immigration issue.
Yeah,
they tighten their own borders. But now Canada, do we pose a security risk for America? Is the State Department being paranoid, or is there a legitimate reason or basis for concern for having Canada in the state it's currently in on its border?
Well, I think this comes down to the facts. I mean, we have a narco state that's operating within Canada that's been allowed to exist. and there doesn't seem to be any checks or balances happening at all. A purpose, if at best, a blind eye. At worst, absolute treason to the people of Canada. But these guys have been operating a narco state, which has been allowed to produce drugs. It's allied with Mexican cartels, China, and people need to understand China is the big asset to foreign influence in Canada, and their triads are their proxy battle, soldiers that go out to cause havoc in the streets of of Western countries, which is where the fentanyl is coming in, how it's being produced. And the Mexican cartels, apparently the Hells Angels, are completely under the control of the Chinese triads now. Yeah, I know. It's just, you'd think the Hells Angels from what you're hearing, but guys like Sam Cooper have been showing like they're completely now they're acting for the Mexican cartels and for China, because China and the Mexican cartels are connected now. They're in there together. And I think people need to stop thinking that China is somehow a trading partner. They are a geopolitical threat. Cardi was correct when he said that. But where's the action? Where is the action to show you're going to stand up for your country to do this? And I think the United States' point is exactly that. Canada has been exposed now with a number of its politicians that are yet to be named because it's been covered up by the Liberal Party of Canada and their government, that there is a number from CSIS and the RCMP investigation who have been crying out saying we do have these foreign actors working within government and who are elected representatives that are foreign captured, or at very least foreign influence, to the level that they're doing the bidding of these foreign countries. So yeah, if I was a US, they're talking about bringing in visa requirements to travel into the US for Canadians and any country. But Canada might see for the first time in its history where we no longer have the friendly border where you could just cross. Remember, we used to be able to cross with your driver's license.
For years, we could do that.
Yeah, and I was watching some 20-year-old on YouTube the other day talking about, about using all you had to do is pass your passport in to go across. Hold on, no, we didn't even need a passport that long ago, folks. It was like friendly. You would come down. Oh, what are you coming down for? Oh, just to go hang out with some friends or go hang out in Seattle or whatever. Yeah, have fun. It was that simple. It was nothing. It was, the worst was coming home. Yeah. What do you got? You're smuggling in some cheese and milk. It's like, well, you might have to pay some duty on that. That was about the extent of coming back and forth. But the point is that we may see now where those borders start to slow down, because you're going to have to apply to come to the United States like every other country for the most part. You will have to create a visa document and request and tell them your travel dates, when you're coming in, when you're leaving, to get your visa approved to travel, just to go vacation in there. I think they'll see a lot of opposition to border states to that, because they make a lot of money off Canadians. But the Elbows Up crowd has been trying to damage that as much as possible. But let's remember, the Elbows Up crowd couldn't care less if we travel to United, because they just bilking us for all of our money through taxes to maintain their pensions, and they get a pay raise every time the cost of living goes up here. So they get all the money because they control the levers of power to raise revenues and take more from you. Eventually that's going to pop, but I think America is going to put screws even tighter. I think Canadians, the Elbows Up people, are going to be on the losing end of this, because eventually the society is going to blow up like the trucker convoy. It's going to have enough. We've had enough. We're not doing this any longer.
And boy, the length of time, the rope on that is a lot. If you're trying to catch a fish, let the cat tire itself up. We're giving it a lot of line before that happens. Canada's stupid. Your grandchildren can gain Canadian citizenship if you, the Canadian grandparent, have lived in Canada for a cumulative total of 3 years. Even if your kids are citizens in another country, they don't even have to move here. We'll just give them the citizenship, because then we can tax them, and there's a financial reason for doing that. But they're making it so easy, they're practically giving it away. And there's mixed reports on. Sometimes I'll see something. The Canadian passport is one of the best passports you can get on the planet. And then I hear other stories that the Canadian passport is practically meaningless in 2025, that the country is, because of its poor mismanagement, a lack of proper management, we're becoming a liability. And so people in other countries don't necessarily know what they're getting when they say a Canadian's coming.
Yeah.
What is a Canadian? It's not what it once was. All right, we got still more little headlines to go in. This is a great bit of news for me, for you, Blake. We love this. Trump, we have more people praying. The churches are coming back. I don't know if you've been reading the story about religions come back, America. Amen. This is by Hunter Eagleman with 257,000. He gave me a little like. I respond.
Story, but religion is coming back.
Okay, hold on, Donald. Here we go.
But we have more people working. We have more people praying. The churches are coming back. I don't know if you've been reading that story, but religion is coming back to America. Some people say, oh, why would you mention that? To me, that's a big deal. Anything like it. But we have more people working. We have more people praying. The churches are coming back.
All right. Church is coming back. What do you think about that? Is he right? Is he wrong? What do you make of it? And if it's true, what's causing it?
Well, I think this is, I mean, Trump doesn't control the spirit of God. God moves like the wind and will do what God wants done.
Amen.
And Trump may be part of, and is most likely, like everybody, is part of that plan. So we don't see the levers behind, but we see the reaction, right? When God moves, things happen. And I think when you see so much evil in the world, the natural gut instinct for people, they can feel it. You can feel the change. You can't help not feel it. For anybody, some people are walking around out there, their eyes glazed over like zombies, like nothing's changed. We call them the NPC crowd. But they, somewhere deep in their souls, they got to know something's not right. And they're lying to themselves. You can tell when something is not right. Things are just not right in the world. There was a significant evil that really started to change, I think, when COVID hit, and you could sense the darkness just went over the world. And it wasn't like, let's work together and stop this thing. You knew in your gut, those that were aware, that there was something significantly wrong with this story. There was not a, I don't know. You just have to be, I guess the term would be spiritually in tune to feel these changes as they're happening. And I think you could see, even with the death of Charlie Kirk, I think that helped, at least in North America and in the Western world. It was kind of like the catalyst that kind of broke the camel's back with regards to how insane and how far we've gone over the edge collectively. We've let our children down by allowing insane Marxist theory.
Well, they remove religion, or Christianity in particular, out of the schools, out of the marketplace. They're selling festive pine trees, they call them. They don't want Christ in it. Even Xmas, is a bit of a cop out on X. Let's get rid of Jesus out. So there is that reality. It's a great question here, Blake. I just want to throw this one because it's been asked. This is a great question for you and me. If we don't like the politics in Canada, and we don't, then why don't we move to Texas or Florida, Blake? What's stopping us from moving down stateside?
I'm not a millionaire. I wish I could. If I was a millionaire, I would have already left. I don't have the assets and the wealth. I've been robbed blind by our government. I am kind of stuck behind enemy lines. I can't just go enter the U.S. Maybe under a Biden administration, if I spoke Spanish, I could cross the Mexican border, swim across the Rio, and got a free place to stay. But I don't know. I'm getting older. I'm 56. It's hard to start all over again at that age. And our dollar's not worth very much. So anything that we would have been able to sell and pack up and go wouldn't remain a lot of it would be eaten up in currency exchange. But I think on the side note to that, I think you and I can see that something's going to change in Canada and it's going to break. And I think we may become part of the United States before we have to leave to the United States. And it's going to happen because it's a national security risk. I think it's going to happen. My gut feeling is that there's just no way we can continue down this road, because America will not allow a country to turn into a Cuba of the North or a Venezuela of the North. It's just not going to happen. And half of Canada will not allow that to happen. They will leave and they will fight to take their land with them. That's the difference. We're not people to just leave our land behind. We want to take it. And I think there's a big chunk of Canada that's ready to say, yeah, screw the politicians. We'll just allow the United States to become part, to join in with some of our provinces, probably Alberta, probably Saskatchewan. Unless there's a big soul change or a spiritual change in Canada, could that's really the only hope Canada has, to become a big partner with the United States and have a spiritual change and get rid of the woke, Marxist, progressive nutcases that have gained power here, and a lot of it by foreign influence. That's how they've gained power.
Chuck D, we're out hunting in West Virginia, listening to the Political Nooner. Well, good hunting. Goodwill hunting. That's what we want. We want you to bag some game. Sarah, good friend Sarah, the Raging Tomato, is in the house. We love Sarah. And Sarah is featured prominently in the documentary that's done on my other program. Again, it's very political-centric, polycentric. So if you like the Political Nooner, definitely, they're fundraising for the film. I have nothing to do with it. I'm just a star. But,
I think we got an audio issue. Can barely hear you. It sounds all fuzzy.
Oh, Sue's cooking in the background.
Oh, could she put her mic off or mute off?
Where's my microphone? Oh, hang on. The microphone's been put away. How's that?
Oh, that's clear.
That's better. Yeah, the microphone went. Somehow.
It sounded like you were standing 40 feet away from the mic.
Yeah, thanks for alerting me to that. The microphone was actually behind the monitor. Should never have been there. A rookie mistake. Okay, so much going on. So for my case, I'm 67. So I'm retired. So right away, my government, the Canadian government, would take half of that away. The CCP part, I think I could keep. But the old age, the security, the old age pension, we call it up here, that part would cease to exist. So that I'd lose money. Now I'm Canadian with my pathetic Canadian dollar moving into the States. I would be bringing in half the amount of wealth immediately would be cut in half, just crossing the border. And then there's the whole question, does America want an old person like me coming in that's not going to help the economy out? The answer is no. So the U.S. really, I'm not a desirable for America. I'm past due date, past best date. Canada would like to maids my ass right the hell out, basically, I think at this point. But
they all do. They want all of us
fighting. Yeah. Sounds like she's on desktop. So much better. Thanks. So sorry about that. I should have caught that earlier. A reminder to self. I should have a little circle that glows, so always know to put there. Anyway, let's grab another clip here. There's so much going on.
Oh, there's that one, if you pull it up after this, the PSYOP that Canada's been running against its people. There's lots of chatter going on about that right now.
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to do that one. Let's just do this. These idiots, these are the, what do you call it? The treasonous six, the seditious six, breaking the FBI, arranging interviews with 6 Democrat lawmakers. There's the list of them, who released a video urging U.S. service members to refuse illegal orders. So that's good to see. The FBI wants to talk to these idiots. I think they need to be charged. I think that you can't get away with this kind of thing. The president certainly wants them charged. Okay, let's keep hitting them, Blake. A couple more here. This is really interesting. You've heard of the Patriot Front in the United States. These are the guys in the khaki colored pants, the navy blue blazers, shirts, and they just scream Fed. Okay, I think you were talking about psyops. I think these guys are a honeypot psyop here. CTV News, second largest broadcaster in Canada, I believe. Watch alleged white, and I'm glad they go alleged white nationalist group seen demonstrating on London, Ontario Bridge. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the former flag of Canada before we got the maple leaf. You got these idiots all lined up with their big message and re-immigration now. Get rid of all the foreigners. And so white nationalist group, right, spreading up. My response, feds.
Well, that's what it is. The same guys are in the U.S. They wear the same clothes. It's like they're funded by the same group. They wear the same khakis, the same beige khakis, the same face mask, except it's just like they move them around, and they all jump out of these moving trucks and stuff like that. I agree. It was just like the trucker convoy. Remember, like the guys that were running around with Confederate flags or Hitler flags, and some of them were caught right in a very expensive hotel where the Liberals were operating their little headquarters base, and they were seen to be operatives working for the Liberal Party of Canada at that time.
So tell me about your psyop. So that's one. It's just obvious. It's been making the rounds on the X platform. I saw this as soon as I saw my just went, oh, this is a Fed honeypot. They want to catch radicals that'll join in with these idiots, and then they can arrest them, and the usual. But go ahead, Blake.
Well, I think it's to demonize. I think that's the point: is to demonize patriots. It's always about demonizing patriots. Patriots don't stand up there and say we're not racist, but we want controlled immigration. We're not against immigration. I don't think that's the point. The point is that you can't drop endless immigration to the level that the immigrants themselves can't integrate into society, and then they create enclaves and create their own societies within Canada that don't get a chance to mesh in and be part of everybody. And it can take decades for that to actually potentially work. Otherwise, you're going to have separatist movements inside your own country. So it's not going to work. But I agree. I think that the Liberals are part of that WF upper structure that continue to demonize the patriots, the real patriots, the people who loved Canada, believed in where Canada was headed, was basically America Minor. That's essentially what we were. We believed in a lot of the same values. The only thing different is that we were still British loyalists in a lot of ways historically, and that's really our raison d'etre, why we exist, is that we were a British colony controlled by the British Empire to maintain a place for all of the loyalists who left during the Revolutionary War to create a country north of the United States. So, but all the same values of individual freedom, liberty, merit-based society, be able to be all you can be, have the American dream was allied to the Canadian dream, but the Canadian dream became, let's work for the government, and that's your dream. You'll own nothing and be happy, somehow became government policy. That's where Canada is now. And I think that's why there's these nonstop psyops and war against, I would call, the lawful side of Canada. They're going after the lawful people and demonizing them. And there's nothing more shameful for that, more evil than that.
Yeah, evil is good and good is evil in the New World Order.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a look here. I think it's that's that one. Okay, this is the one. Blake's got a story here. You want to watch? Should we just roll the tape and let this guy speak for a few minutes?
Yeah, let it run for a few minutes.
All right, here we go. He'll explain it.
This is Blender News.
The Justice Center's new report shows something Canadians were never meant to see. During COVID, the federal government wasn't informing the public, it was running psychological operations. In plain terms, Brainwashing, a state-run effort to shape belief, mood, and behavior, and it didn't end when the pandemic did. Inside the Privy Council office sits a behavioral unit whose job is not to listen to Canadians, but to train them. The Impact and Innovation Unit was sold as a harmless nudge shop, but in truth, it became a social engineering arm of the federal government. Its work was not public health, but compliance. During the pandemic, this unit tested fake news stories about vaccine injuries, then observed which emotional cues pushed people away from fear and toward obedience. They mixed fear, reassurance, expert praise, and warm words about community protection, then measured which blend bent the public will fastest. They called it the kitchen sink method. This is better described as behavioral conditioning rather than persuasion, and they launched it before they had solid safety data, while reports of myocarditis were already building. Instead of slowing down and telling the truth, Ottawa gave its behavioral team a new task: keep anxiety low, keep uptake high, and drown the public in cues that steer thought in the right direction. This is how a government acts when it no longer sees citizens as thinking adults. It sees them as empty vessels waiting to be filled. It sees them as objects to be shaped. We must recognize that this is the logic of a totalitarian regime. A free country does not direct the inner life of its people. It does not hire psychologists to test which mood cues best override doubt. It does not treat its own citizens like subjects in a lab. But that is exactly what the federal government did. Canadians were never given a chance to think for themselves because Ottawa had already decided their thoughts for them. And when a government believes it has the right to design the public mind, it has already left the democratic path. Now consider the Elbows Up campaign, the ideological assaults against those who question mass migration, and the gaslighting of citizens over climate change. All of this is tantamount to brainwashing. A country cannot claim to be free when its leaders believe the people must be engineered. A country cannot claim to respect rights when it uses psyops against its own.
So this is a big story that's been breaking now for a couple days. As he said, the Justice Institute has brought this information forward, that there is information showing that the government has been operating this psyop. And it's not some kind of conspiracy theory. They did it. This conspiracy is fact, and that's what's coming out. Is that all this evidence is coming out?
Yeah, and this is another aspect of it. Canada's Public Health Agency admits it tracked 33 million mobile devices during the lockdown. So it was a vast overreach. The Big Brother state totalitarianism on steroids or on vaccine shots. It's just nuts. And of course, it didn't work on us. We just had a good friend of ours. We love her like crazy. Judy was over, and she goes, "Oh, I hate Trump." She was just saying, and she brought up Trump for some, and she goes, "Oh, I hate him" or something. And it just, these poor middle class, a lot of people are just, and remember Heidi was the same thing. Yeah. Just friends of ours that hate Trump, they don't really know why. I just don't like him, and of course, when you got CBC, CTV, and every other rag media outlet hammering away on Trump 24/7, all negative, painting the guy in a negative light, the guy's Hitler, what are you going to do with the people? That's part of that brainwash equation as well, in my opinion.
Hey, I still see people wandering around with masks on that would have never worn them 5 years ago.
That's nuts.
And it's just the psyop continues. And that's what these people are. They're brainwashed. They're told, this is how you think. This is where you get your sources of information. Don't be a critical thinker. Obey. I mean, it's really scary stuff because they're doing it without the level of having a gun pointed at your head. But yet there's an invisible gun pointed at your head. And what they do is they make society become that gun. So that they, all of a sudden everybody's like East Germany, right? They're there to rat each other out. You don't know who's going to be part of the secret police or calling the police.
They actually encourage that. Didn't they have like tip lines and all this?
They're on everything. They've got tip lines on everything. The BC government's one of the biggest on that, on homeowners, on this, tip line that, rat out everybody. It's becoming a rat society because those that think they're doing, they're going to get the kudos on the back from the fascist state that Canada has become, where soft fascism heading hard into hard fascism, because eventually they will have to use guns against people and force to evict them out of their homes and forcibly take their possessions, to the point, don't be surprised, Canada, that you'll see cash confiscation coming soon when they start going into your bank accounts and taking money in a desperate plea for the fascist state to continue its operations, because they are going broke. They're going to go after your pension money. We've already heard Carney saying that. They're going to go after your cash that you have in your banks, your investments. It's all on the table. We saw the WF practice that during the austerity years, when after 2008-10, when they actually went into Cyprus and basically helped themselves to everybody's bank accounts there of massive amounts of money, and nobody could do anything about it. They just took it. And I think that's where things are headed. But again, we go back to, will the U.S. allow this? I don't know. But the PSYOP continues. We're under it now. Canada, wake up, snap, wake up, wake up. It's happening. And I know what you're saying. You got friends, you got family members who are trapped in this blue pill world, and they just won't leave it. They think the CBC is still a normal source of information rather than a propaganda machine.
Yeah, amazing. Well, listen, Blake, it looks like we've hit that point today. I want to thank you again. These shows move really quick. You know, the stories are out. They write themselves. So much going on. Peace in Ukraine, the big story breaking today. Let's hope this comes to fruition. And, you know, and we just hope. There's other stories going on, but we'll get to them. We're going to be back on Friday with another political dinner. I want to thank Blake. I want to thank everybody for watching. Thumbs up, subscribe, share the video, and we will.
And watch your video. Watch your new video documentary.
It's a
reminder.
I'll be promoting it later on my show today at 4:00. Rachel's Ghost 2. It's called Rachel's Ghost with 2 eyes. You can watch me there. It's a music show. It's not really political, but I'll basically be advertising it, so you can get that link. But Sue put it up earlier. It's all there. Thank you, everybody. Bye for now. Time for lunch. Bye.